An
See?
unbound or unbound mason, unbound
Yeah, yeah.
masonry.
Or we can combine to make it a bit more fun to take Perry and Mason together, and you get person.
To get person
Or you
unbound. I
get
love that.
or you get Mary, Mason and Perry, reverse order, Mason Perry, and you squish them together and you get Mary. Yes.
That's fun.
Or Mary could be too, Mason Masri, I don't know. But Mary, Perry, Perry and Mason is Mary, I don't know.
Yeah,
Mary person unbound.
married person.
And you, so now if we take Mary and put it together with person, you get Merson. Instead of Mason, you get Merson. Yeah.
Merson is interesting.
Yeah. See, I'm just saying, you start playing around with these things. It takes you somewhere. It takes you somewhere.
It does.
It takes you somewhere. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. We are having a morning discussion, which I'm just carrying over here into I think we're talking about names and naming ourselves, and how we can have a concept name for ourselves, which is basically like a self-conception, but you just make it into a name, right? To say I'm a spirit warrior, but how can I make that into a name? Where a spirit warrior as a self-conception, or a life detective, since we're talking about detectives here, that's kind of like a label or a title. It's a self-conception. But how can I make that into a personal name, right? So we came. Well, that's what we were saying with this idea of, shows like persistence is a big quality of us, but also there's persistence, but it's scrupulous persistence, it's diligent persistence, it's conscientious persistence, etc., etc. And this reminded her, well, it came from a brother called her, she liked Perry Mason, and we just were putting all of it together, like you put Perry and Mason together, you get, what did we say? Person, and reverse it, Mary and right, Perry Mason, right. Perry, you get Mary, stuff like that, and then you can say, well,
person.
Right, and so we just kept going with that, and we had some fun with this, right?
But I just thought of something.
What's that?
Persistence is one of my biggest qualities, which I believe that it is. Doesn't it also take patience to be persistent?
Absolutely. It does.
And who is it that's always telling herself and others that, I'm working on patience?
Right. Well, you succeeded. Your work has paid off.
I need to change that, don't I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I do have patience.
Yeah. Well, we can always have more, but that doesn't mean that we don't have it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I can just keep practicing patience all the time. I don't have to say that I'm working on developing it. No, I've got it.
Exactly. Very cool. Very, 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 very cool indeed. Yeah. Wonderfully cool. So, now you've got patience and persistence. And what else?
And we, patience, persistence, and what's another good P word?
Perseverance. Practice. As in application, right? So now we can call you 3P.
3P.
Yeah, but see, it's 3P, as in THREPIE, but pronounced 3P. Yeah, right. So it's spelled out 3P. Right.
It just struck me as funny because there's an old joke that it's not appropriate. Trust me. About right. Repeat and repeat. So yeah.
Interesting. Right. So anyway, I mean, there's a lot of fun there.
There is 3P. That's cute. Maybe I should just start signing my post.
There you go.
3P.
Right. But see, it has significance to you.
It does.
And this started where we were talking about names and the diligence of naming a children, and Bina was saying part of Islam is that the prescription, the requirements of a parent is that one of the things they need to do is give the child a good name, right? So now I said, following on from that, I always thought that, at some point we if you build it into the system where you choose your own name, and that's how we got here. But now we want names that make a difference, right? So if somebody just hears 3P and, well, all right, they don't know what it means, but you know what it means. And every time you do sign it, like now when you say Shar Unbound, that's a name that's a Moreness name. That's a concept name.
Yes, it is.
You already have a concept name, right?
Yes,
So this is why it's so powerful, because, when you unbind like you are, and you have become unbound, your persistence, which you always had, is now unbound. You can use it. The patience, as you were just explaining, you've actually always had patience. So now, well, I can't say I don't have patience. I need to get it. No, I'm using it. Can I have more? Yes, but at the same time, I do have it. So I can say I have it. I'm using it. Yeah.
Yes. And patience, persistence, perseverance.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And practice, as in application, right?
I also like the word promise, not as in I
Promise.
promise to give you something, but promise as in there's always more.
Oh, we're getting up to 5P now, or 4P. Yeah. Yeah.
But 3P really sounds cool, because then I'm thinking starting with P3PO.
Yes, exactly.
Whatever it is.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And C3PO in some of the series, they abbreviated to, it's kind of as 3PO, just 3PO. Yeah.
3PO.
So you're just going one more now as to 3P, not 3PO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So this is a powerful thing, how we consider ourselves. Now, of course, our self-conception is very important. And when we're talking about, in terms of the story here, at this point in the story, both Shar and Biella, despite Biella being, substantially different, obviously, as the story has made a point to illustrate, right? They both are aspirants in the technicality there. Now, yes, an aspirant, you're aspiring to be a new noble. However, it is a very peculiar aspiration, because it's not one that they actually realistically think of being fulfilled. Because even when they technically become a new noble, they still remain aspirants. So they think of themselves, all the new nobles regard themselves as perpetual aspirants, because there's always more. So you're aspiring to have moreness, which is an ongoing forever thing, which is fantastic. It's just what a joy, right? So it becomes a blessing, this perpetuality of it, because there's always more that you can be learning and growing and discovering. And since you love learning and growing, discovering, exploring, you've got always more. It's abundance in your life, an incredible abundance. It's very, very powerful. But also, I want to take our theme that we started on, Shar, and Bina too. I want you to chime in here too. When you came on today, in terms of our sessions from this, doing whatever we're doing, I asked you to expound, to elucidate. That's what I asked you to do. I mean, I didn't say the word, but I said in this, but essentially to elucidate on impeccability, because this has been going on for you. It's been a theme, right? So now I want to ask both you and Bina, how does this concept of impeccability, and we're going to, as we go through and reading the story and talking about Shar and Biella, how does it apply to them? And can we point out instances of its application in them by implication? I mean, it's not going to be directly said, oh, Biella was being impeccable, right? But we can gather this from her behavior, and Shar from their reactions, etc., right? Or maybe not quite as impeccable as they could have been. Yeah. So let's look at this very carefully, because in elucidating impeccability, yes, we can give definitions, descriptions, synonyms, which we did, right? But it's very useful to be able to see it in action, or see its lack in action. And this helps us to understand what it is. Yes. So this is a very, very useful thing. Bina, any ideas on this?
Impeccability is something which is yes, it is of course abstract, but it is also very local and in the context also, because what I consider as something impeccable might not necessarily the other person's idea. It depends on the
Yeah,
idea sometimes, and it depends on the context also, that in which
Yes,
situation.
it does.
exactly,
That situation, what was impeccable, might not be impeccable in any other situation.
exactly.
So, it depends on, and also that your own role in that situation. If
Uh-huh.
you were an influential person in that particular scenario, in that particular situation, then your impeccability might be projected completely different to other people, or where
Yeah,
you are
yeah,
not actually and
yeah,
in any authoritative or in any influential position. So
yeah,
it depends on, it's like, okay, yes, my impeccability would not be even noticed when I am not in a position where I can actually influence the situation by any means.
Right.
So it depends on, and I was feeling that sometimes, like in that particular part of the story, that what Biala was considering, of course, we assume and we trust that she is impeccable.
yeah,
That might
yeah.
not be considered as someone who is observing that. They don't know that.
Yeah, and that's going to be useful for us to discern. Yeah,
So, this is exactly what we were discussing before, when you were
yeah,
saying that,
yeah,
yes, when my conscience is clear, I will welcome judgments. Again, it depends
yeah.
on which situation I am, and
Correct,
what role I am playing in that particular
correct,
situation.
correct, correct.
As a parent, your impeccability would be completely different
Right,
than as a child. So things
right.
can be completely different. So,
In,
the one more thing I want to add about impeccability. This is the real beauty, and this is the real freedom of impeccability also. And
yeah.
also the stress of the impeccability, all three included into that. That
Wow.
you cannot be really in a position to define it absolutely. All you
No.
can do is at the end, when you consider things according to your awareness at that time, according to the context, whatever you were, and according to your position in that particular situation, what you could do.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
sometimes we
yeah.
forget that, and then actually that memory echo actually haunt us. That, oh yes, because there is always more. So yes, things could be better, of course. Things can be done in a different way, yes, of course, why not? But
Yeah.
was that in my consideration? Was I able to do that? Was that my position was demanding me to do something more than that, whatever I have done? Not necessarily.
So if I hear you correctly, sir, would you agree that basically Bean is saying that if we are going to be regarding impeccability, we absolutely have to always keep appropriateness in mind?
Yes.
There's no way to escape it. It's contextual. Depends on
Right.
what you're trying to do. So
Yes, it
it's
does.
not just the context in a physical sense or in a time sense. We must always include time as a context, not just
Right.
physical context.
That's
Always
how I
include
look at
time
it.
too. Right.
It
In your
depends on the
spiritual
situation.
context, emotional context, mental context, right? Spiritual context, soul context, all of those. And your intents, your goals, your motivations, your objectives, right? They all work
Right.
together. So it can get a bit complicated, but you have to do that. There's no other way around it, right? Because what's impeccable in one situation might not be impeccable in another, right? Same like
Sure.
appropriateness, right? They're very closely linked. They're not exactly synonyms, but very close to being synonyms.
Right.
Yeah, the
Very,
difference
very
is the
close.
self-honesty, because impeccability
Exactly.
depends on self-honesty, how honest we are with ourselves. No one
Exactly.
else. Impeccability actually depends on that. Okay, was I
Yes, it
really
does.
myself at that time? Okay, yes. Then it's
Yeah.
okay. Then of course nothing would be like really ignored or left out, or no, not
Yeah.
considered.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Everything would be. We will say
Yeah.
that, okay, oh yes, I could do
Yeah.
better, but that didn't occur to me at that time. I
Yeah.
was influenced by that thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that will
Exactly.
not be a pressure or a stress, of course, but this consideration, it is not going to be like, okay, my conscience is clear, so I'm not going to
Yeah.
consider that what was happening. Yes, things might not be come out as the way, desirable way, but still I can be like, yes, this is what I did in that particular time, according to my awareness. And the only criteria is self-honesty.
Exactly. It's crucial. There's no way to be impeccable without self-honesty. Just
Absolutely.
not possible. Just not
Right.
possible. Right. By the way, Shar,
Yep.
sure. I mean, Shaw's, you were commenting on my background, right?
Yes.
And you say how you love this because you do enjoy steampunk and all this. Now, the only part that likely Shar would not have in this costume is the skulls over there.
The skulls. I can't see the skulls.
Oh, well, it's on the hat. Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I'm just showing it. It just got it big on my
Yeah,
screen right
probably
now.
not the skulls, but
Right, but
everything
doesn't
else,
matter. Yeah, so maybe she has it there for some other reason. Who knows? Shah, we have to again. We'll practice new nobility logic to say, Shah, I assume that you have some good logic there to say,
Yeah.
and maybe she put it there just to get your attention and say, oh, why did you put them on there? Because it's not something that I would normally put on there, and it made you aware that it's incongruous and inappropriate. So it's getting you to pay
Are these
attention.
on Google
Oh,
lenses? Yes. And
say
the
again.
goggles, are these on?
Yeah, it's the goggles that's on the hat. That's right. Those are
I
actually
see
the
it.
goggles.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was just
So
a reflection.
she says, well, why would I not have the skulls? Isn't death the best advisor that we possibly have? And just to remind us to keep death in mind. I see. Oh, okay. All right. Very cool. I'm just saying, right? We give her the benefit of the doubt. And I love that she has the spider web. I would assume it's not a permanent tattoo, but I guess these are bats or some kind of prehistoric raptor type thing. But anyway,
Cool.
just the fun stuff. Yeah, it's just cool. The way the hair is done, the whole hat. Yeah. It's just all fun. And of course, there's the infernal machine behind us. So there's some logic to this picture. I use it as a background today because these are pictures I used when I made the slides, the program, right? Fun stuff, in other words. All right, so I want to say, though, now let's go in this application of impeccability. And let's go and look at Shar and Biella. And we say, I want to just go back. I'm gonna screen share in a moment, right? All right, so from a very particular, we're going to look at impeccability, and we are going to assess. We're going to make this assessment, right? Now, I could say we're going to judge, but judgment, and everybody gets all panicky. You mustn't judge. Well, I have a very different perception on judgment, and so do the new nobility. They welcome judgment because, of course, they make every effort to be impeccable. So they say, bring it on. If you can find something that I need to do more, something that I'm missing, I would love to know, because then I'll update, I'll upgrade, I'll change, right? So, but we'll call it assessment. We're going to assess impeccability in the context of Shar's behavior, Shar's behavior, and Shar's behavior, and Biella's behavior, their thinking, their actions, their mindsets. We are going to, because we're going to look and assess impeccability. How impeccable are they? Are they being impeccable? What is the basis of the impeccability? Why are we doing this? Because we want to use this assessment, this application. We're going to apply impeccability to them and their actions, because it's going to help us to further deepen our understanding of what exactly impeccability is. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So before we go there, I want to just go back to something. And because I also want to ask a particular question. Yes, so we're going to look at Shar. I'm going to go back 2 or 3 slides, because we stopped yesterday at where Shar's just about to press the button that says start here. Yes, and we're going to kind of back up a little bit and look at Shar's reaction to the infernal machine, right, where she first comes into contact with it. Yeah, and it's like, wow, right? They're just coming into the clearing. Biella just keeps on going and walks up as if nothing's amiss. And she has to kind of hurry to catch up. And there's just like, yes, this weird thing that she's never seen before that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And it is certainly a profound and deep anomaly, right? But I want to ask a very particular question. Do you keep this question in mind? Don't answer it just yet, right? Apply it to Shar. Do you think that from Shar's behavior that she believes in the power of her energies? Do you believe, or do you think, or can you assess, can you say that Shar does or does not believe in the power of her energies?
Now, is that a question to keep in mind while we're going through this story?
Correct. That's the
Okay.
question to keep in mind while we're going to be reading. Yes, while we're going to be reading. So we're going to check to see, does this statement, this belief in the power of her energies, does this apply to Shar?
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe we'll ask Shar if this also applies to her, but in the moment we're going to apply it particularly to Shar, right? And of course, like everything, there's multi-layers to this. There's a moreness to it. My question is not random and idle. It's particular thought through. You'll see. There's more to it. All right. So who's on chat? Is this Bina saying? Oh, she has to go. All right. So we'll see you now. We'll see you soon back, Bina. She'll be back. All right. Wonderful. All right. Shar realized purpose infused the thing. It wasn't just a random collection of bric-a-brac or a crazy sculpture. No, there was an intelligence to the way everything fit together. Certainly a machine of sorts. Shar noticed movement, subtle, but definitely there. She hadn't noticed it before. The machine expanded and contracted, slowly, like it was trying to fit its parts in more comfortably, but not really succeeding. A timing to it, almost like a steady breathing. I am reading a little faster than I normally would because I want to get to where we are, right? Shar stopped at the edge of the clearing to take in this thoroughly unexpected sight. What is our question that we keep in mind?
Does she believe in her energies?
In the power of her energies.
The power of her energies. Okay.
It's a very particular quote a very particular statement, very particular idea, which I took from somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, which I'm utilizing. See, anomalies, it came up on my timeline right underneath this post, right? When I went to go and do sharing and all the things, the post that's immediately underneath it has this in. Do you believe in the power of your energies?
Oh.
Like, okay, I'll use that. Oh, you didn't see that? Oh, let me see.
No.
Oh, it says believe.
Oh,
believe in the power of your energies.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, it's right underneath. It's right underneath this. If I'm not going to scroll up now because it's there, and I don't want to. If I scroll up, it'll
trippy that happened.
Exactly. It's very trippy, right? All right. So now we're asking this question. I mean, that post says believe. It's kind of saying, recommending or suggesting or maybe telling, right? But it's making the statement, right? Believe in the power of your energies. Now, look what Shar does here. Shar had stopped at the edge of the clearing to take in this thoroughly unexpected sight. Is that appropriate behavior? Yes, of course. Is that impeccable? Yes, of course, because it's unexpected. You need to assess a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But Biella had continued strolling as if nothing was amiss. So now he looks at this and was now coming up to Charles, to catch up. So even though it's appropriate for her to say this and it's a good use of her energies, the fact that she is scurrying to catch up, in other words, trusting Biella's assessment, means that she trusts in the power of her own energies.
Yes.
That she'll be able to, in other words,
handle
maybe nothing amiss for. Exactly. I mean, okay, Biella might be confident in doing this, but I've never encountered this machine before. I may have stayed back there. So, well, you go ahead, Biella. You may think you know what you're doing, but see, she does trust in the power of her own energies. Right from that, just that one simple little point right there already. Yes. Because how many of us would necessarily do that? All right, it is Biella. You might trust her, but even so, I say, oh, sorry, Biella. I know you might be confident and capable. You've had experience with this thing, but I don't have anything. I'm staying back here to check it out, right? But she has confidence that if Biella can do it, I can do it, right? So it just right there that that quote that we pulled there, believe in the power of your energies, right? And we're asking, does this apply to Shar? Well, yes, here it does. Just one paragraph. Very cool, right? As she came closer, she noticed the stein. Strange, she had not seen it before. Quite prominent, it read. The instant machine of beauty creation. It's a pity Bina dropped off, because I mentioned this yesterday, that I wanted to point this out to you and Bina, because I didn't elaborate on it before. But, right, a most curious name, Shar thought. A machine to create beauty. And instantly, she is actually not reading this sign accurately.
No, she's
Some
not.
assumption got in here, because it's not the machine of instant beauty creation, right?
No, it's not.
It's the instant machine. Yeah. So I just thought, I'm glad that you picked up on that there. I'm glad you picked up on that, right?
Instant machine.
Right. And I said that in this, if you think instant, like, okay, that means immediate now, but what else? So when we think of instant as in doing it now, as in this instance, like it applies right now to you. And like in gaming, when you're in gaming, you run around in the world, like in MMOs now, in other words, right? Multiplayer things. I can run around, you can run around with your character, and we can interact, but then interact with everybody. But then you can enter into an instance, which is a separate little pocket reality within the reality of the game. Right now, again, it's the two of us there, but it's not part of the general flow of the game. You know, it's an instance. It's a particular thing. So when you think of the machine in this sense as an instant machine, like an instanced machine, right? It's instant. It's particular to you, and the fact that this machine sort of just is there when you need it, kind of a thing. Now it becomes a whole different idea, right? I mean, this machine has some other connectivity. Who knows? It's just a very wonderful thing, but it does change. It does change the perception a little bit. But still, the fact that it's instant machine, like now, you got to act with it now. You can't come back later to it, right? So. Yeah, there's a lot of nuance in that name, in other words, and this is the magic thing, that it is telling you to pay attention, right? All right. So now, will you read a bit, please, Shar? I like it when you guys read. I really enjoy listening to you guys read it, right? So this is where we ended yesterday, and this is where we're going. One moment, let me just scoot up my screen here. So hello, Elizabeth, before we get going. Elizabeth Entrusted is here. Good morning to you, Elizabeth. Are you listening while driving? I assume later when you get where you're going, we'll get some comments from you. Always love to hear this. So they're very cool. I'm glad to hear. And also, we are, before you start reading, we're going to be doing a couple of things, right? To see, does Shar believe in the power of energies? Now, we already determined that she does, but we're going to see further applications as we go along now, right? Because we know she already does, and we're going to point them out. But also, as we read, right, and where something comes up where you can say, "Oh, I can make a comment here about impeccability." Yes.
Okay.
Shar, Biella, and the machine.
Oh, okay. The machine.
Why can't the machine be impeccable?
Well, because it's a machine, it doesn't have a spirit.
Yeah, but is this a usual, typical machine? And that's the point. If we, right? So it's a very fascinating question. If we can apply this to the machine, yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, but because our purpose isn't to point out impeccability. Our purpose here is to understand impeccability through assessing, pointing out, connecting, seeing how it fits in the story, recognizing it, right? So our purpose is to further our understanding of impeccability. It's a very, very powerful way of doing this. Very, very fun way too. All right, go ahead. I'm listening.
On the other side of the sign appeared a large red button which said, "Start here." As Shar noticed the button, Biella stretched out a flat palm, indicating, "Go ahead."
Oh.
Well, why not, Shar thought, curious to see what the machine was all about. She pushed the button.
All right. What happened to my screen? Oh, sorry. I will sure sure. I will it's going to happen. Just be prepared for it now.
Otherwise, just call me Percy.
There you go. There you go. All right, Percy, I'm going to be when you start reading the last line, I'll click on the next one because there's a slight delay, right? So
Okay.
so you'll notice I did this with myself when I was reading, so
Right.
that just sort of keep that line in mind in case it comes a little sooner for you, right?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So she clicked button.
Yeah.
All manner of things immediately started happening. An enormous wheezing could be heard as if the machine was gathering great quantities of needed air. Levers moved, mechanical arms extended and retracted, unknown things whirred and popped. Shar jumped back a step, startled by the unexpected commotion. An opening appeared, followed by a sign held by one of the mechanical arms. A sign like protesters used to use. The sign read, "Insert input here." Well, what input? Shar almost said out loud. The mechanical arm shook the sign with what appeared to be slight impatience. Shar noticed a large table off to the side with an array of objects on it. She stepped closer, examining the common household items: a teapot, a screwdriver, a bowl, picture frames, something lampish looking, a small wheel, various shapes of animals, and more. Nothing much bigger than the length of her forearm, all made of a curious material she could not identify. The mechanical arm shook the sign again, this time accompanied by some puffing sounds. The darn thing's impertinent. Come, come, it seemed to say. Well, were these input? Were these the input? She could see nothing else. The sign, replaced by another, read, "Pick any one."
All right, let's just pause there for a second to
Being
regard.
impertinent.
Yeah, but let's regard this from the machine being impeccable, impeccability being best use of energy. Yes.
Okay.
And you are doing everything that you can possibly do in order to secure your objective appropriately within the context of ethics
Okay.
and integrity. Yeah.
And it
Now,
doesn't have a way to talk. So
right. But also the machine has an agenda. It is telling you through its impatience. No time for dithering here. No time for indulging in the usual indulgence that we do when it's faced with decisions. The decision says pick anyone.
okay.
You put your hand down and you pick anyone. Why is this a complicated thing? Why are you standing there? Well, which one should I pick? You see my point, right? So the
Because
machine
I'm
is quite
human.
appropriately impatient with you. Yes, it is communicating in a way that tells you, change your behavior, change your behavior. Yes. We literally, if you were doing what it said literally, right? Pick anyone. You would just take the first one, nearest one, anyone, whatever. Okay, you may pick the one on the edge just for random, doesn't matter, but it's anyone. There's not a thought process involved. There's not a selection which is appropriate. That wasn't the question. It didn't say pick the appropriate one. It said pick anyone, right? So, or pick one, right? The first one I think was said pick one, and then it clarified and said pick anyone, but still pick one. What's so complicated about pick one? Why is it so complicated? You see my point? It's communicating a very subtle point, and I really want to emphasize this. We get this in life so often where we unnecessarily complicate things. It said pick one. Who said you have to come and judge and just and this and decide and criteria? No, pick one. That's it. You're being asked a very simple thing. Can you not follow instructions? Now think of this from the universe's point of view. If you get an anomaly that says pick one, what are you going to do? Are you going to right away pick one, or are you going to sit there dithering and deliberating and scheming and plotting and figuring out and going through all these hoops that are totally and utterly unnecessary and inappropriate. All your thinking, all your criteria mean absolutely nothing because it's random. Doesn't matter.
Wow.
See my point?
Yes.
It's a huge, huge, huge point, right? Huge point. So no wonder the machine is being a bit annoyed here, right? Or irritable or whatever, impatient, because it's saying, seriously, come on, like really, I just asked you to pick one. I try to make this as simple as possible, and yeah, you go and make it complicated. You know, and it's been doing this for centuries for all we know, and it's like, oh, you know, another one.
Well, I'm kind of wondering if this machine isn't the universe in physical form. So
exactly.
I'll get to that.
Exactly. We don't know how that machine, as we go further, we already know because we read through the story, right? The machine, nobody knows how it got there. It has no, and you know, they're in an age where, you know, from the time they crashed there, they're able to keep records of things. All right, it's an oral culture on Nobelia, but still, you know, nobody knows. There's no origin point for it. So it may exactly be that. And we are going to come back to this because as we go, remember the gods are involved.
Yeah.
And the gods could have put it there.
That's true.
See, or the universe, right? Either way.
Universe.
But we know, all right, we don't know that the universe is capable of doing such stuff. But we do know within the context of this reality of the story that the gods most certainly are. So they could have put it there, right?
Right.
So anyway, so I'm just saying though, when we look at this, and also the machine has to communicate in a way that others can't, right? So if it was a person showing that impatience and that, you'd have a very different reaction. You'd start debating, you'd start arguing, you'd start discussing. But because it's a machine, right? The point making that you dithering, you being unnecessarily doing extra stuff that you're not being asked to do. In other words, you're not being impeccable because that's not the best use of your energy. It says pick one.
Yes.
Well, okay, pick one and put it in. Waste of energy. See, so it's a very profound, very subtle communication that allows you to do that. Because if it was a person, like I said, you'd have this big debate, but, and then you'd have a whole long discussion, like why are you being impatient, rude, or so the machine is able to do what a person cannot. Right? This is a very profound thing, right? It's very cool. Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't that fun?
Yes.
All right. Where were you last? I don't remember where you.
Okay, I haven't read this one yet. We haven't read this one, so
keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
No, so the sign and machine both relatively still waited. But which one, Shar wondered, what is required, what would be best? Well, assuming the input was for beauty creation, wrong assumption, how would the input determine the creation? What should she choose? Well, the machine shook the sign. A few huffs and puffs accompanied the shaking. The sign had changed, or had it? Shar wasn't sure. It now read, pick any one.
Right. So again, Shar, you said you were paying attention early on, but you didn't quite pay enough attention because then you would remember, right?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So it says, well, the sign said insert input here, right? And then the sign said pick anyone, and then the next sign it did change because now it's saying pick any one.
Yes,
See?
emphasizing
it. Right. But Shar's reflections here, they are both appropriate and inappropriate.
They are. Well,
right?
they're
because these are.
I think they're appropriate questions. She wants to make sure she's going to do it right.
Right.
But at the same time, inappropriate because it's not using her
because there is no right yet.
Her energy.
Right. She's assuming there's a right. And the questions are appropriate if that assumption is true. But it's not. It's not true. Not yet. Later, maybe yes, but not yet. Right. So again, sometimes we are required to simply act.
Yeah.
It's a very profound thing to understand. Sometimes we are required to simply act because the first action starts to set up a criteria of events that lead to her being able to make an assessment as to what is appropriate. She doesn't have enough data and info yet, so your questions are premature. That's the problem. It's not that they're inappropriate questions. It's that they asked prematurely. You don't have sufficient data. Pick one, put it in, and then see what happens. Then you can start asking based on what's going on, right? You need to get data. So the key understanding for me here is, in order to take step 2, we have to complete step 1. Because step 2 is created from how step 1 is taken and is completed.
Right.
So step 1 only gets created when you finish step 1. Then the full data allows for step 2 to be created. Does that make sense? So in other words, sometimes I just have to actually act and take the step. If I'm looking for step 2 and I'm not finished with my step 1, well, it can't happen yet, right? I have to finish it. I have to actually do it. I have to actually do it. I have to actually take that step and get ready for step 2. I have to be completed with step 1, right? So it's very important. Yeah. So that we have to understand where doubt is appropriate and when it's not. In other words, doubt with questions. Yes, she has doubt, but it's premature, right? The questions themselves are good questions, but they're premature. So very, very powerful. Exactly. And she's not, exactly that trust here. Again, it's asking for things that are, you want data that, well, do your part in order to produce the data. Don't be looking for data that you haven't done the things required to produce the data. That's why sometimes we just have to act based on a simple thing. Pick one, pick anyone. It said pick anyone. Didn't just say pick one, pick anyone. Just do. Don't make it so complicated, people. Just do sometimes. It's very simple. And we make it complicated unnecessarily. That's the point of this whole slide here, right? Don't make it unnecessarily complicated. It said pick anyone. Did I have to emphasize any? No, it's not necessary, right? That's why the machine's impatient. It's an unnecessary emphasis needed now, right? It's too funny. It's brilliant. Right? That's the magic of this machine. Of course, we already know that this is a Moreness machine, right? It's yes, it's that infernal thing, but nonetheless, it's said affectionately once you know it. Yes, it wasn't at the time, but yeah. All right, keep going.
Okay. Shar grabbed the lampish thing, which was closest, flinging it into the opening, not wanting to keep the machine waiting any longer. The opening closed as the machine appeared to swallow the object, the entire machine seemingly in motion now. Pipes and chimneys were seen which had not been there before. At one point, Shar could see something moving along inside a flexible tube. The machine whirred and buzzed, straining occasionally. A loud rumbling ensued, and it spat out what was left of the lampish object. Yes, spat out. No other way to describe it. It had seemed to do so rudely, as if to confirm her suspicions. Another sign appeared and was thrust close to her face. Input unremarkable. Almost immediately replaced with try again.
So we really start to see the machine here is pushing our buttons. Yes. And again, the machine has lots of buttons. So there's a theme, a figurative theme going on here of button pushing. Yes.
Right.
So when we think of it in that way, it's like, oh wow, all right. This is kind of fun to see this connectivity going on. And this is how our brains work, right? It's illustrating this. Our brains and the life and the universe, things are connected. They're connected. There's these themes and connectivity. So her buttons are definitely being pushed. Why? Because this is an opportunity that's going to press her to step up, step beyond, and step into her own moreness.
Yeah.
Stepping up is one thing, but stepping into is also part of it and quite another thing, right? So yes, we can step up, but are we capable of stepping into?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see.
Yeah. It's a profound thing, this idea of stepping into. Yes, it goes with stepping up. Yeah.
Okay. So unremarkable. Ha. All the objects were unremarkable, Shar thought, glowering slightly at the machine. It had said any. Since it had said any would have to do. All right. She grabbed the next nearest object, the screwdriver, putting it into the opening a bit more politely this time. The aperture.
Good for you.
Nothing.
So I'm just saying, good for you, Shar. Good for you, but more politely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing happened compared to the first time. There was something going on, but the screwdriver object stayed near the axis. Delicate movements ensued. Was the machine considering her input? A few moments later, levers and buttons appeared on a panel before her. All seemed designed for external input. The screwdriver, now in a glass box connected to all sorts of tubes. Begin. Another sign waved at her. Okay.
Wow. So before I go on, I want to go over the slide. So we are looking at the story here with this, our intent of understanding impeccability and through applying it to the story. So
Right.
as an impeccability, say again?
I said she's being more deliberate.
Yes, but also, can I make a case for Shar being not quite 100% impeccable here?
Yes.
Why? Because she's being cued by the machine to behave in a particular way.
Yes, she is.
Right?
Instead of following her and trusting her energy, she's just basically kind of going along with what the machine wants her to do at this point.
Right. But I mean, the mood, I mean, yes, fine to follow the signs. That's appropriate. But I meant the mood of the machine, right? She glowered at the machine, right? And she flings it in. In other words, the machine's impertinence and rudeness and this, it's affecting her.
Yeah,
right?
It did.
And that,
it kind of triggered her.
Right. And that's not best use of her energy, correct?
No.
Exactly. We don't want to be slaves of being influenced by other things. That's being very vulnerable. And it's terrible usage of your energy. I don't want to be feeling irritated and annoyed and bothered. Right? But she can't help herself. It's just happening automatically here. So this is not a good usage of her energy. Now, she's not doing this deliberately, of course. And that's what makes it even worse. That it's inadvertent. That's terrible. In other words, the machine is in essence manipulating her emotions. Yeah.
Right. But she's allowing that to happen. She opened herself to, giving her power away. In my world, she's giving her power away.
You may believe in the power of your energies,
right?
But believing it is not enough. You also don't want to be giving that power away. Exactly. No. Giving that power away is utterly unimpeccable.
Yes.
Impeccability, basic core definition. Best use of energy. Is Shar making the best use of her energy?
No.
No, exactly. Because that irritation, that annoyance that she feels, it's distracting her from what's going on. It's not a good use of her energy, right?
Right.
Yeah. If you're in a situation where you need to be operating at peak performance, such distractions, no, not good. Takes energy, right?
Right. It does.
So very powerful to consider here, right?
Yeah.
It's very cool. And look how it's helping us to understand impeccability here. Yes. Very cool. So we do need to have awareness to be, because she's not aware that she's giving away her energy. Yes.
Right. She's not.
Will you read what Elizabeth says there, please? Can you?
No, I can't.
Okay. Elizabeth says, this is reminding me of the hesitation we feel about entering moreness due to fear of unknown and distrust. Exactly, Elizabeth.
We had that conversation this morning.
Yes, exactly.
That's the truth, actually, Elizabeth, that we have to, I'm not going to say we, I'm going to say that I needed to face. And when I did, You know, I mean, it's one of those things that just goes away once you've spoken it, once you talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when we realize moreness and the unknown is one and the same, makes it much easier to enter into moreness.
It does.
Right? Of course,
Yeah.
there's risk. There's risk involved. But you know what? Why do we only go ahead?
I was gonna say, but there's just as much risk not stepping into it.
Exactly. Also, when we say risk, this is the possibility of negative. Is that the only possibility?
No.
There's possibility of the positive.
Yeah.
Why do we only focus on one little tiny fraction? If there's possibility of negative and it's unknown,
yeah,
well, there's also possibility of positive, right?
It's true. It's like what if? What if has, you know, a lot of people just go, oh, well, what if this happens? No, what if this happened?
Exactly. It's like, how unimpeccable are you to only insist on one part of it, right? And we know, right, if we were continually going to be wiped out by the unknown, we wouldn't exist, right? So actually, when you do go and explore an adventure, the chances of, you know, you falling into a hole or whatever, unless you're now totally unaware and all that, it's dependent on you, the negative, your awareness, your sensibility, right? But still, though, when you're out actually adventuring, the positive things far outweigh the potentially negative things, and they potentially negative. They don't necessarily happen to you. So when we understand this, that this fear of you know, horrible stuff happening is actually a very small part of the whole. The universe is generally benign and generally positive, is what I'm trying to say, right? So no matter where you are, you know, the negative stuff is usually a very small thing, and you can see them usually. You can pay attention. That's if you're aware. You need to be paying attention and be aware. So this fear of the unknown is completely a disproportionate fear. Why? Because look at what Elizabeth said there. Oh, hello, Norma. Hello, Norma. Hello, Norma. Never be sorry. It's all good. You were doing important stuff, I think, you know. So Norma was gardening, she said. So that's very important. Gardening is very important. You were nurturing the moreness. You were nurturing the allness. Yes.
Yeah.
You were nurturing oneness. So that's a very important thing. A very important thing. But look at this point, though, right? When we enter, due to fear of unknown. Now, we were just saying that in the unknown, the actual things to fear are a small percentage, right, of the whole. They're very small, especially things that you can't see. Yes. Now, I mean, mostly if you're just paying attention, you can see what's going on and you can avoid the stuff. So life is easy. So our fear is disproportional. Why? Why do we have this fear of the unknown as like 100% fear and no positive? Because of the last word that Elizabeth put in there. Distrust. Distrust, fear of unknown and distrust. It's the distrust that's the problem. Now, she said distrust in general, and that distrust of a new situation comes because we don't trust ourselves to take care of it. We don't trust ourselves to be impeccable. We don't trust ourselves to be aware. We don't trust ourselves to be discerning. We don't trust ourselves to be anticipatory, to be able to extrapolate, etc., etc., etc. Right? So this is where we start by developing our skills, our competencies of being. Our competencies of being.
Yes.
Can you repeat that exactly for me one more time for emphasis, please? Our.
You said, I'm sorry, my phone is
competencies of being. That's okay. Our competencies of being. Our competencies of being are things like our persistence, our patience, our perseverance, our practice, yes, our promises we make to ourselves, our intent, right? Another way of looking at intent. So when we look at those as competencies of being, Wow, the more I practice and apply those, the more I practice things like being aware, being discerning, being understanding, and putting those things into action, right? I need to practice application to take something from theory and put it directly into action. This is a very important skill, is it not? Again, think like a warrior, right? So you're out on patrol and you've got your lieutenant who's in charge of your platoon, right? And this lieutenant's got fantastic ideas to how to deal with stuff, how to get you out of trouble. But it's a new young lieutenant and they haven't had experience of how to take that idea from idea to application. So you say, yeah, it's a great idea, but how are we going to apply it? Yeah, and then it breaks down. But if you've had a thing says, here we go, and that's usually where your sergeant major comes in. If you now get a little bit technical in the military sense, right? They're more practical orientated. They know how to take an idea and apply it into reality. This is an incredibly valuable skill. That translation from theory to practice. This is a profound skill we need to practice over and over and over and over again. So I'm thrilled here, Norma. I'm thrilled here. I'm thrilled here. So wonderful, wonderful, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. We're reading, Norma, to catch you up. We're reading the story. Of course, you know, the whole week is about rereading it. But today, particularly, and we're going to continue to do this, we're reading the story with a particular extra idea behind it, or extra intent, extra practice, to look at how impeccability applies in the story and how it comes about, and where we can see it, recognize it, understand it, evaluate it, assess how the characters in the story are they being impeccable, how much, if not, etc. The machine included. And why are we doing this? For the purposes of expanding our understanding and awareness of what exactly impeccability is and what it means. So it's a very fun thing that we're doing and going on. So Shar dropped off there. I assume she'll be back in a minute. On that note, while we wait for Shar to come back, both Elizabeth and Norma, what's going on with you guys? How are you feeling? What's in your hearts? What have you been thinking about? What's been going on in your lives? Share. I want to know. My particular question is, has anything anomalous occurred in your lives? Anomalous, as in way out of the ordinary, unusual, unexpected, something you can't figure, makes no sense, very unusual, weird, peculiar, strange, etc. Right? Anomalous. Anything? Oh, it's a joy, Norma. I don't have to put up with you. It's a joy. It's a joy. It is a joy. It is a joy. It is a joy. So I'm keen. I'm keen to hear, you know, what's been in your hearts, what's been in your minds, and maybe in the context of impeccability. Do you feel that, as far as you understand impeccability, that you've been impeccable lately, or not? Either way. And if not, why not? And if you have, why? Sorry, I'm distracted by my own eyebrows today. It's like, why? It just seems like they're not the same. And it's catching my eye. It looks like somebody shaved me in the night a little bit over here. I don't know, maybe it's a scar or something. I don't know. I don't know why I'm noticing them. Who knows? Oh, so Norma's brother transitioned. And this is a good opportunity to take a break here to discuss this concept of transition and how to be impeccable with those who transition. Now, when I talk about transition, obviously, I'm talking about somebody when things have changed. This is the idea of transition, where you move from one state of being to another. So, you know, a transition has a more meaning than just to say change, right? Transition implies that it was smooth, fluid, easy, okay, acceptable, good, positive, etc. Right? So transition is a more positive, fluid, easier, nicer way of undergoing change. Yes. So, for instance, I've never had a breakup in my life. Yeah, I'm really serious. I know that's quite a dramatic statement, right? In the normal sphere of things. Oh, okay. So Shar has to go as well, right? So no problem, Shar. No problem. No problem. So she has to go as well. And the phone froze. All right. But I want to make this statement again. I said, I've never had breakups in my life. Right? Never had a breakup. Not once even. It's like, wow, how on earth do you get that? So I'm going to get into this thing of transition in a moment, Norma, because you're thinking about your brother who's transitioned. And I want to take this opportunity to kind of explain what I mean by transition. So I'm getting there. And when I say that, I've never had a breakup. Why? Because I transitioned. I was very fortunate in the very first kind of in-depth relationship that I ever had. I had others, but they were, I don't know if they really even qualify as a relationship. This was a specific relationship. It was a very physical relationship at the time. This was in my late teens, right at the end of leaving school. And well, we had a wonderful time, me and this young lady, and everything was fun and wonderful. And then one day we're sitting on the beach, and a very sophisticated young lady, and she says to me, "You're too much for me." I said, I understood exactly what she meant, and I thought it was the most beautiful, wonderful, magical, marvelous thing ever. I appreciated it inordinately. Now, 1 second. Let me just finish my coffee here. Now, in that situation, I actually did what the machine was hoping we would do. I didn't sit and dither and go and blah and why and whatever. I simply took the implications of what she said and ran it through and understood. It was a beautiful compliment and it was a wonderful thing to say, but the sophistication. She said, "You're too much for me." Yes, we've had fun, but you're too much for me. She didn't even say we've had fun. She just said, "You're too much for me." She didn't need to say that, right? I understood exactly where she was going to say, "Hey, our relationship is going to transition now into a different phase. Right? We were together, we had fun, it was all good, but you're too much for me, move on. It's no longer appropriate, in a sense. I mean, it's good, but it's not a negative, right? So it was a beautiful way of transitioning. And that's always stuck with me, right? At that time, I didn't use this concept transition, but it always stayed with me. And that's where this concept of transition came along. We didn't break up, we simply transitioned. Yes, we were boyfriend and girlfriend and all of this stuff, and then we transitioned to being friends, and life was on. And we didn't necessarily hang out a lot together just because of the nature of the way things were then. It wasn't so much. So, but we still were friends, right? It was very positive. And I had no regrets. It was no negativity. I understood the appropriateness of the transition because she said, "You're too much for me." It was fantastic. What a gift. It was truly one of a significant experience in my life that was very transformative. So I will say thank you, Avril. That was her name. She herself has now transitioned since then. I said, thank you, Avril. That was a profound gift, right? Really, really something special to me. It meant a lot. Now, when we look at this, right, in other words, that was a transitioning of a relationship. You can transition in your job too. And of course, when people die, pass away, whatever, right? If we think of it and transition rather, if we transition the relationship in the same way as my relationship with my girlfriend transitioned into a relationship to become a friend, right, with Avril, our relationship transitioned. Why can't I do the same with people when they die? Why can't I, instead of saying die, I've lost them, they've passed away, some kind of a separation, why can't I simply transition the relationship? I had a relationship where I knew you and I could interact with you and this, but now it's changed to a relationship where you now live in my heart, in my mind, in my memory. Yes, transition, change the nature of a relationship. And let me make another point, right? So when I was a kid, people moved overseas. Back then, when somebody moved overseas, they might as well have died because calling them on the phone wasn't really an issue. Writing letters, well, yeah, technically you could do that, but that takes forever. It wasn't like, it's like, it was just, they may as well be dead because you didn't really interact with them. But I noticed this when people did move away, nobody got all sad and miserable and upset and all this. The effect, the actual reality was the same. Yet when people died, they got all upset. But when people moved away and they never heard from them again, then it was okay. It's not a problem. Because of this idea that they were still there. Now, of course, when somebody transitioned, we don't know if they completely gone or lost. We could maybe connect to them together. The possibility, who knows? We don't know. In the same way as those people overseas, it's theoretically possible we could have connected to them again, right? So in the one, we had that hope or that understanding of possibility, but in the other one, we believe not. Why? There's no reason to say that. So why can't we have the same attitude and mindset when somebody transitions, right? That's one reason for transitioning. If you can do it with people who move away that you never hear from again, you can do it with people who died, right? Now, secondly, if you think about this from the other side, okay, if I'm the one who's died, I'm transitioning, I'm out there in the spirit world, whatever, looking back at Earth. Yeah, I'm in an energy configuration. But before I get to the energy part, I'm just looking back at stuff. I can see you, but you can't see me. Would I want everybody to be upset and sad and unhappy? Hell no, hell no, hell no, not me. I have heard people say, oh, yes, I want everybody to be crying their eyes out. Well, those are narcissists who said that, right? That just shows how much they cared for me. What absolute just narcissistic nonsense. If somebody remembers you with joy and fun and love, it shows they care for you too, more profoundly so. Because those people are crying. Are they really crying for you or for them? They've lost something. They're crying about their loss, not about you. So if you think this is about you, no, it's about them, right? So be clear as to why people cry, right? You have no idea. I mean, if I'm crying for you, then I have to assume that things are negative for you. Are they? How do we know? We don't know. Well, I'm assuming they're not. And if they aren't, then your crying is totally inappropriate. Yes. So if I'm looking back and seeing you crying, say, I'm fine, I'm happy, I'm moving on. You know, this is wonderful. I'm free and whatever. Who knows what I'm thinking? But I don't want you to be unhappy. That's for sure. Right. So out of consideration for those who have transitioned, let's be positive. Let's remember them with joy and love and energy and celebrate that we did know them. Furthermore, how much time were you promised with anybody? How much time were you promised with anybody? You weren't. You weren't ever promised any time with anyone. Correct? No promises. So no promises whatsoever. None. Zero. So if you got even 1 second with somebody, 1 moment, it's more than you were promised. It's a bonus. So every single second, every single minute, every single hour, every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year, every single decade, every single lifetime is bonus, 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 bonus. How can you complain? You got more than you were promised. See, no complaints. So be thankful that you did get you got more than 1 second. You got more than 1 minute. You got more than 1 hour. You got more than 1 day. If I came to you now and said, you know, that loved one that you loved so much and that transitioned long ago, would you like 1 day to spend with them? You say, yes, yes, please give it to me, give it to me. I'd love 1 day. See, it's all in the context. So let's be appreciative that we did get the time that we did and we got so much of it. Yes. And that's why also it's a reminder, make full use and appreciate the time you do get now. Don't be wasting any of it with nonsense. Yeah. Spend every single moment that you are interacting with those you loved with, loving them, appreciating them, enjoying them, celebrating them, having fun together, right? Exploring, adventuring, learning, growing, whatever gives you fun, right? Laughing, that's playing. That's it. Right? Celebrate. Because you don't want to be coming back later and say, oh, you know, I had all this time and what did I do with it? I wasted it. I wasted it in complaining. I wasted it in moaning. I wasted it in nagging or whatever the case may be, right? Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. Be appreciative of it. So When you're thinking of somebody who's now transitioned, celebrate them. Say, man, I was so thrilled that I got to know this person. Isn't that an appropriate way of honoring somebody that has transitioned? To say, man, I'm just so thrilled that I knew them. Right? Norma, Elizabeth. I say this now, even before you've transitioned. I let you know all the time. I am inordinately thrilled to know you. I celebrate this. I appreciate this. It's a gift. 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 I don't want to take anything for granted ever. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing you can put on my gravestones. It still took nothing for granted. It did not take this stuff as just, whatever. No, nothing. Celebrate it. Now, furthermore, right? So now I've transitioned into the energy realm. Yes. And I'm out there and I'm looking back and I'm saying, Elizabeth, Norma, please stop being sad, because I'm in the energy realm, and your sadness, your grief is energy. And that energy is connected to me, because this is in the Moreness realm, and there's no time, and it's all energy. Everything is connected. And I'm like, I want to move on, but you guys are holding me back with your grief and your energy. It ties you to me. It's holding me back. Let me go. Please be happy for me. Send me on my way so I can go and explore and do whatever I need to do. Don't hold me back with your grief, because grief and sadness and all that, it ties you to the thing, right? Because you being sad. So it's an energetic connectivity. Yeah. It's not a fun energetic connectivity. And it's a tie, it's a bond. So if you're really going to want to respect and honor your dead, don't hold them back with your grief and your sadness, with those negative energy connectivities. You think it's positive. Well, I care for them. I'm showing how much I love. But this is a narcissistic idea. It's not a reality idea as far as I'm concerned, right? So, man, I'm so happy you're here, and I'm so happy you're enjoying being here, Norma. Norma, you're such a delight. You're such a delight. Just your joy, your beauty as a person, always just a true delight to be here. I'm really happy that you're happy. So, this is the thing. See, we want to give this maximum freedom to those we love. When I'm celebrating you and I'm enjoying you, not my possession of you. When I'm grieving and I'm sad, what am I doing? I'm emphasizing that we are connected. I'm going to lose something. I'm emphasizing connectivity. And so I'm holding on to you, in other words. That's what the grief is. You don't want to let go of the person, right? So, no, energetically, I don't think this is very ethical at all. So how can I hold on to you? I want to go on your way, whatever you're doing, be free. Even if you are going to stay connected to me, all right? But it's now your choice to do so. I'm not binding you to it, right? I'm giving you this freedom. If I truly love you, I have to give you that freedom. Of course, we want to do it in this life also, but particularly in the next one, where things potentially, I'm just assuming, right, that they're energetic. But there seems a high likelihood, based on everything we know, that this is what's going to happen. But nonetheless, it's a very real possibility, and I want to cover all my bets here. Yes. So when we think of transition in this context, it's a very, very, very profound thing. There's more to it. I've got a little mini program on this, which was not that mini, but I have a course, a program on transition, paying attention to this. So there's a few more factors that come into it, but those are the main ones pretty much. And that when we start to shift our mindset and realize that, hey, you know what, if I do the usual stuff, the typical conventional superiority paradigm stuff, no, I think I'm being good, but I'm actually being inappropriate. So it's inappropriate application of goodness. So let's change it. Let's change the paradigm. Instead of feeling that I should be sad when somebody dies, say I should be joyful that I knew them. I should be celebrating that I had an opportunity to know them. I should be joyful that I had an opportunity to know them. I'm going to appreciate them. I'm going to send them on their way with positive energy. I'm going to honor and respect them profoundly. So the shifts, right? So now we are joyful that we knew them, and we keep them in our heart with joy. Would you like to be associated in somebody's memory when they think of you? Oh, they think sad thoughts and unhappy thoughts, grieving thoughts. Is that how you want to be associated and remembered and connected to this person? Me? No, hell no, hell no, hell no. I want to, when you think of me, if I move on, you say, man, I was so thrilled to have known Sil. And I'm still so thrilled to know the memory of him, right? This gives me joy, gives me pleasure. Whenever I think of Sil, a smile comes onto my face. My heart fills up with love. Wow, this is a fantastic way to love. So how can I possibly want grief and people grieving for me? Yeah, and I think of the reverse. Oh, that means I can't do this to others, right? So no. So to all my friends like Avril, you see, Avril is transitioned. I only have the most wonderful, positive memories of Avril. Yes, and the fact that I knew her and all the magic time. It wasn't very long that we interacted. I mean, I literally knew Avril in my life, at least where I interacted with her for uh, like 2.5 years. That's it. I didn't know her very long, right? I mean, I came to the school the last 2 years. She was in the new school, new city, and she was there. And then towards the end of that, we got together. So that's a fun story how that too happened, but that's a different story. So nonetheless, it's not like I knew her for a long time, but she's a profound factor in my life. She changed my life, right? Through that one most sophisticated, wonderful uh, uh, transition, right? It brought this whole concept into my life. It's a very profound, life-changing concept. So, man, and I remember other things with Avril, but still, that was it. I remember her in a most profoundly wonderful, positive, fantastic way. Isn't that a cool thing to do? Same thing. My best friend died at 21 of cancer. Best friend at the time. Russell, I remember him too with all sorts of wonderful positivity. I was thrilled to have known you, Russell. Thrilled to have known you. And he will say, and he did say, he was a poet and an actor and all this. He said, man, if I'm going to go out, this is how I want to go out because I'm going to be remembered. And he wanted to be remembered positively. He wrote poems, because he knew he was dying, he said, the cancer, right? So he went out the way, like, went out with a bang, with a flourish, right? So again, he had this intent to be remembered positively. Again, I got to spend time with him. Also knew him for that 2-3 years, maybe a little more, maybe 4 years, something like that. Short time. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It was filled with intensity. We had fantastic times together. I when I remember him, I have as many memories as some people I've known all my life. Yeah. So intensity, intensity, intensity. It's a very powerful thing. So when we look at this in terms of appropriateness and best use of energy, since our theme today is application of impeccability, core definition of impeccability, best use of energy. What is the best use of my energy when it comes to somebody who has transitioned? The best use of my energy is to remember them positively, to celebrate them, to appreciate them, to lock them into my heart in only remembering the positive. I could tell you negative things about Russell and Avril if I really wanted to. Why? I choose not to remember them that way. Yes, it's not an accurate memory. So what? Is there anything says I have to remember you accurately? No. I'm going to remember you inaccurately. I'm only going to remember the positive. That's it. That's it. No negative. No negative. So transition is a very powerful thing. Elizabeth, I am keen to hear your comments on transition as I've laid it out. And there is more. There's a bunch of points that I'm not remembering. Now, I suppose I could go and pull up the little program and run through it, but we'll do that another time. We'll do that another time if needed. If needed, yeah. So I'm keen to hear about how what I've been sharing connects with you, Elizabeth. I'm very keen to hear. If you can type. It's a very powerful point. And Norma, does this change anything for you? What I've shared? Does it shift your perspective, your perception in any way? I'm keen to know. Norma? Let me know. I am keen to hear. I do like to hear feedback on what I'm saying, because otherwise I'm sort of sharing in a vacuum, yes, somebody again. Who's this joining? Who's this sharing? Sure is back. Oh, brilliant. Wonderful.
I made
Yes,
it back.
Amazon too. Thank you, Amazon. Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Shar. Hello, Shar. Hello, Shar. Brilliant,
I
brilliant, brilliant.
I don't know where you are with the live right now, but I just wanted to share with you something
Please.
that happened while I was trying to get my phone back up.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, it is actually. So this morning before you got on the live, we were talking about you know, everything that I know about impeccability, and you know, my attempts and my efforts at trying to really understand it and grasp this. Okay, so I'm moving along with that, and my phone has this issue with anytime I'm on Zoom, and if something else happens during the Zoom session, it'll freeze my phone. Now, normally I get irritated by that. And this time when it happened, exactly, this time when it happened, I was about to get irritated, but recognizing what it was that I posted about today, which is survival mode, which is not the best use of energy, which is not being impeccable. See how things are connecting here with me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So instead of getting upset about my phone freezing, I'm just like, well, what are my options here? Oh, okay. You know I have to power it down and wait for it to come up. I can always try and get on my laptop, but that takes a lot more time and energy than what I'm willing to put forth right now.
Yes.
So was I being impeccable about writing what I wrote this morning? Yes. However, there are some things in there that I can change, or that I'm going to leave there as a reminder.
Exactly.
I'm going to leave it as a reminder, the way it's written, the exact way it's written. I do believe what I wrote. And normally something that would help me through my survival mode is not available to me. So what are my other options?
Yes.
Well, I can actually think it through like I did.
Exactly.
Not get upset.
Exactly.
And I was successful at that, and just be patient.
There you go. There you go. In other words, you applied what we were saying to Shar and going with the machine. That she was being cued to be a bit follow the same annoyance and irritation as the machine.
Yes.
It's like, why do you need to do this? No, and you applied. You said, no, I'm not going to be cued by the phone being the infernal machine.
Exactly. And my phone is my infernal machine.
Exactly.
I just thought, you know, when I mentioned earlier that the universe probably put that machine there. Well, the universe put this particular phone in my
Exactly.
Problems and
you
all.
know, exactly. And the takeaway is, do we have options?
We do.
We do.
We
have
do.
options that we didn't even know we had.
Yes. You know, I mean, it never occurred to me just to put it, this is silly, but it never really occurred to me just to put it down and walk away and be patient with it. That it'll eventually come back up.
Exactly.
You know, but instead I was worried about meeting my needs. My needs were at that moment, well, no, I want to be on this discussion.
Exactly. And here's the magic of patience. Why I call patience a superpower. Before that, I should say, yes, love you, Norma. Absolutely love you, Norma. I mean, so much. It's just too wonderful. It is so how that is, Norma, and it's part of our awareness in getting to know people. And that inevitably it's that we have so much more in common, even though we are profoundly different. What do we have in common? Moreness. Like
discovering the unknown. Yeah.
Exactly. We have moreness in common, right? And it's a profound thing. When we start connecting via our moreness, it's always this magical thing. Now, back to patience and why patience is a superpower, right? When we get annoyed, like with your phone, right? My phone's working, I dropped and I can't be here. And that typically our annoyance when it's related to is impatience, especially, is because things aren't happening at our idea of our timetable.
Exactly.
But when we have patience, that timetable gets extended, and it's like, well, anytime. I don't have to have this now. Yes, I would like to be in the live, and my phone stopped working. I can't be in the live, but I'm just as happy not being in the live.
Yes.
So when it comes back, I'll connect again.
Right.
Life is easy. So this makes us at ease with whatever is happening. Now, does it mean I'm not going to make an effort to be in the live? I'm not going to reboot the phone as quickly as possible, whatever? Yes, but I'm still doing so patiently. Yeah, I'm just doing. I'm not wasting any time thinking and dithering like Shar did there, right? I just do it, and when it comes, it goes. And in the meantime, while it's waiting, and I do other things, I use my time and my energy to best effect. It doesn't matter. I'm going to use every single minute, every single second of my precious time feeling good.
Yes.
I'm going to use every single second of my precious time feeling good. I'm not going to waste a second of it. Yeah. You can put that on my gravestone too. Never wasted a single second. Yeah. I really tried to use all my time.
I would have to say that that's probably the most appropriate phrase that could be applied. Yeah.
Exactly. You know how this came about? It came about when I was 11 years old, when I thought death through to the end. What did I come away with that? What is my takeaway from that? My takeaway from that, and I really thought all about death, right? It was like a whole long thing, and with that intensity of the young, right? When you really get inside it, and who knows why I already had this understanding to think it through to the end. I didn't like wasting my time, but and that's how it came about, because I noticed that I hadn't been thinking things through, and I was redoing them over and over. So this got me thinking. And so anyway, so I started thinking about death. My end takeaway from death was time is precious. That's it. Those 3 words. Time is precious. Right? And ever since then, I made every effort to use my time as effectively and efficiently as possible. So when I started reading, for instance, I got tremendous amounts. I used to read at least 1 book a day. 1 year, I read like 2 books a day. And it's not that I was only reading. No, I played sports and interacted with my friends and explored and, did all sorts of stuff. But why did I get so much reading done? Because I used my dead time. I call it dead time, the times in between. Like when you're waiting in line. I did all the chores, even though I had brothers and sisters. They were just, I don't know, they were unimpeccable. And so they just like, they were so indulgent. They just didn't do things that needed to be done because they knew somebody else would do it. Thank you, Norma. Right. And this really bothered me. I mean, they abused my goodness. They took advantage of my goodness. They just said, well, I'm not going to do it. And if I didn't do it, there would have been this complete and utter mess involved. It would have been a real negative consequence. And they knew I could not let it be. So anyway, so my point is, when I was standing in line, shopping, going per bills, going to the bank, whatever, I did all those things, right? I'd read my books while I was in class, waiting for the teacher. They weren't always there when you came. They came a few minutes late from another class, whatever. 1 or 2 minutes of reading, doesn't matter, I would fill, even if I read 2 or 3 sentences, didn't matter. So I ended up using my time and multitasking, for instance, stuff like that. Very useful, very powerful when we start to use our time preciously. Because in order to use your time like that really effectively, you need to really be deliberate, no?
You do.
So it's a consequence that follows. If you do one thing and do it thoroughly, you'll be surprised what comes along for the ride. Everything else comes along. At some point in time, might take a while, but it all follows. Make that effort to do that one thing. Take it all the way to the end, and then everything else follows, right? Like I thought death through all the way to the end. Time is precious. Well, now I've got to apply time is precious. I can't just have this understanding. I've got to apply it, see the application. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm applying it. I applied it to my reading. I'd read while eating. I'd read well, we didn't have TV at that time, but, I applied it everywhere. Later when TV came, I applied it. And somebody's saying, dang, how old are you so that there was no TV at that time? I'm not saying we didn't have a TV. I said there wasn't TV at that time.
Right.
No, I'm not talking about when did TV start, like in the 30s, I think, in the States.
I think so. 30s or 40s. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I think it was like late 30s. It definitely wasn't in the 20s, I'm pretty sure. So, but anyway, I mean, when it's really started, it was more like in the 40s. So it's like, are you that old? So, no, I'm not. In South Africa. So in the obviously, when TV really started to come mainstream was in the 50s and the 60s, right? When it became popular in the States. So they said in South Africa, when they started to, well, we need to have TV and all this. They said, we're going to wait a little bit on doing this because there's the PAL technology was in development, and it's a transformative technology, and it was much more, and all sorts of benefits. And so they waited until this was finished being developed, and then they started to come in. So they delayed bringing TV into the country for that reason. So we only got TV in the country in 1975. And then I was in 7th grade in 1975. Then I was only for 2 hours a day, test things. And for those first 2 years, that was all you had. And then in 1977, it went to like 4 or 5 hours, and then it gradually got to be increased. So essentially, I had the best of it because I grew up without TV. I grew up with a little bit of TV, and then right at the very end, when after I left school and that, then cable and stuff like that started to come in. So I got the full experience, but I didn't grow up in a TV culture, which if I had, I wouldn't have read as much. And I'm very pleased for all the reading that I did do. I literally read thousands of books, and it led to the Great Reading Project, which made me aware that I didn't learn from the reading. I learned from my doing, from my thinking through. But if I hadn't done all that reading in the Great Reading Project, I would not, because I was too humble to even realize that I'd actually worked out a lot of things. I never was aware of it. So I would never have gotten to that awareness if it hadn't been for that. So see, it all fits together. It's a very profound thing. So yeah, it's very fun. It's very fun. And again too, I really want to emphasize this because this is a very big point for me, right? Modesty is a very big thing for me. So modesty is a huge issue, and humility, and it's always been in my life. I started off that way. But me pointing out this about me, I think that, I definitely didn't start off my life in the sort of with the usual stuff. I kind of came out of the box different, right? So I can't really take credit for all of this. It's like there I was saying that with that thinking about death, I thought it through to the end. I knew this, and not consciously. I had no idea of this. I never used that wording until way later in my life. Yeah.
Right.
Well, actually, it started there. From that, I realized that I need to think it through to the end, but I didn't say to the end, right? It came up like very shortly after that when I was looking at things. I was thinking them through, but then I said, I realized that I had to do it again every time, and I didn't finish the thinking, and you sort of have to start from scratch every time. So I said, no, this is a waste of time. I got to finish it, and then I've done it. I don't have to come back. So, but I'm saying is that I only thought to do that because I already had the understanding of it, because I was doing it before I formulated it into words. So somehow I came out of the box. And the reason I'm mentioning this is not to say, oh, Sil is wonderful, blah, blah, all this nonsense. It's nothing to do with ego. I'm simply saying that I feel that what I intuitively, instinctually inside me knew back then, it's a carryover from previous lives. Yeah. So that's the only way that it makes sense. Because if we're going to be like all the stuff we're doing now, Shar, right? Think of it from an emphasis point of view, not emphasis in terms of memory. We're emphasizing knowing stuff, correct?
Yes.
Now, when you come out of the box, and there are things that you knew when you came out of the box, where did that knowing come from?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question.
So now, in other words, if we say, hey, if I'm going to make all this emphasis on knowing, like appropriateness, I have a profound story of understanding appropriateness, nuance, discernment, understanding when I was 6 years old. Right, it was right when I went to school in the beginning. It's a very profound incident that had a huge effect on my life. But I already understood it before that, without knowing the words even. Yeah, and that I feel is because it was so intrinsic in me from having done exactly what we're doing now before. this over
Okay.
and over, understanding the abstract conception, having it in my body as a physical knowing. Yes.
Mhm.
So I didn't remember the word appropriateness. That only came much, much later, right? I mean, at that time, likely, you know, I probably knew the word inappropriate already, maybe at 6 years old, because your parents would say, don't be inappropriate, right?
Right.
But as a conception, the way I used it, that came for me much later, you know, after school, more or less, yeah. Like a year or two after school. So, but still, it was in my system, though. And I think this is what we are aiming at, right? All this, our
Mhm.
dictionary of power, all these conceptions like impeccability. I don't want to know it intellectually. I don't want to have it on my hard drive. Yes, I mean, I have it there, and I do want to know it intellectually, but not only. I need to know it in my body. It needs to be innate as an understanding. And understanding is not a remembering. It's two different things, correct?
Right.
I understand how to ride a bicycle. I don't remember how to ride a bicycle. I don't remember the steps and the instruction. See what I mean?
Yes.
My body remembers how to ride a bicycle, not my mind. Whether my mind remembers or not, it's totally irrelevant. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter. Yeah. So
Mhm.
this is what we're looking for with these conceptions like impeccability and patience and all this. We want to have it so deeply innately with us so that if we do wake up on a foreign planet, we get born. Who knows where I learned this stuff? If it was on this earth or another earth, does it matter? Or another
Right.
reality? Doesn't matter, right? I have the concepts in me. So it's very, very, very powerful thing. And I can only say that there must be something to it because, you know, I had a lot of the stuff in me before I even was aware of what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I
You know,
also think that, yeah, I was gonna say, I also think it's important though that we develop these habits, develop this lifestyle, this way of living.
yeah,
I've seen it happen where how we are to other people, like, you know, we could walk into a room and you've got a bunch of grumpy people. One by one, you can change their mood, you can change their energy
exactly.
by your own presence. And if your presence
Exactly.
is calm, peaceful, understanding and accepting and aware, all those things, if your presence is impeccable, then what choice do other
Exactly.
people have but to respond
Exactly.
with
Exactly.
that same
Exactly.
presence?
Exactly. We can influence the world through our being.
Yes,
It's the only way we can really do this ethically.
yes.
It's a
And to me,
profound thing.
that's important. You know,
And this is Nobelia-Living. This is their mandate as the corporate mandate, because look, it all comes from the corporation, right? But anyway, it's the complication. But as a culture, this is, right, to influence the world, to make a difference positively through being.
okay.
Being in the most profound, most moreness way you can possibly be, without forcing, without limiting choices, without manipulation, etc. Right? So
Right.
being, right? So they strive to be the most they can be, and therefore they're going to make the most contribution to the world. How powerful is that?
It is. It is
It's
very.
ridiculously awesome.
I was
Thinking things
thinking
through to
earlier
the end.
today too that about my learning style. It's sometimes it's difficult for me to learn through reading, or to
Interesting.
understand things through reading, just
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
I'll get
yeah,
stuck and I have to repeat the same line several times, and it's
yeah,
like, oh, okay, now I get it. Which I don't. That who knows
yeah,
why. Anyway,
yeah, yeah.
examples, life
All good.
examples, lived experience has always been my best instructor.
Exactly. We need to know it in our bodies. We need to
Huh?
incorporate it because then it's innate. It's
Yes,
innate. We want to be conscious and deliberate. We want to know it intellectually. We want to know what we're doing because I don't want to just be acting and not be able to know what it is that I'm doing because
uh-huh,
then I lose some appreciation of it. Yes.
right. But see, before
So,
I was
oh,
not
gosh.
aware or attuned
Exactly.
to the little lessons that would come to me, say, as with the phone,
Exactly.
you know, and
Exactly.
I wasn't exactly
Exactly.
stuck,
I know.
but
Exactly.
it
Exactly.
was kind of like the universe saying, okay, I'm going to
Exactly.
put the cherry on top for you. Here you go.
Exactly. Cherry on top. Cherry on top. You know that the cherries went out of flavor of fashion somehow. I don't know why. Well, I think
I
it's maybe
love
because they
cherries.
started to use maraschino cherries as opposed to glazed cherries. When I
Yeah.
was a kid, it was always a glazed cherry. on top
Yes.
of your ice cream or your dessert or whatever, right?
Right.
And if the cherry wasn't there, the thing was unfinished. It was
Yeah.
like, hey,
Yes.
where's the cherry? Like, seriously, come on now, right?
Yep.
But then they started using maraschino cherries, and I know I'm not the only one who doesn't like maraschino cherries. It's
Yeah,
a very particular taste.
it
Yeah,
is.
so I
It
think
is.
it killed glazed cherries, this idea of maraschino. People made
Well,
such
they
a,
were
oh, it's a
cheaper.
maraschino cherry, but I swear I don't like maraschino cherries. Come on, give me back my glazed cherry.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, it's just because they're cheaper.
yeah,
Everything is
yeah.
about convenience.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. When we were kids, they were more expensive again.
They always what?
The maraschino cherries were more expensive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't think
why they took the place, because it was, oh, this is more special. Yeah, because they
Oh,
had alcohol in them. Yeah, so
oh, see, now they don't. Now it's just like
yeah.
pure sugar.
Oh, well, I think the original ones had that maraschino liqueur inside them.
Yeah, no, like the ones that they top your drinks with if you go to a fast food or something and they put a cherry on there. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they're way
interesting.
too sweet.
Yeah,
So
and Norma says, "Yuck, we climb trees for hours." But a lot of people didn't like the cherries, and they didn't eat them. They just put them aside. But
yeah,
aesthetically, they liked the cherry.
yeah,
So even the people who didn't like to eat the cherry still wanted it as part of their sundae or whatever on top, because it was that finish. It was
yeah,
that punctuation that was appropriate. So
yeah,
whether you ate it or not didn't matter. It needed to be there. It needed to be
yep, yep.
there.
It's true.
And so we need to finish things, in other words. And to me, that's when you think things through to the end, you get to the cherry. Right? It's like
Yes.
that summation, that conceptualization. That's terrifying. You're building your sundae.
Well, and
Right?
sometimes, the anomalies that come at us, I
Yeah.
can look at this now differently. I can look at the anomalies not always as a lesson, but it could be very much so the finishing punctuation.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
something you needed
So
to know.
yes. So today we've got a theme of impeccability, and
Yes.
to a lesser extent transition. While you were away, Norma, I asked how are they, and she's Norma's brother transitioned today. Now,
Oh, I'm
see,
sorry.
I was just about to say, don't say that, please.
Okay. Well,
Why?
I'm sorry because I am familiar with that sense of that loss.
Yeah. But that's
That's
what I
why
was
I'm
saying
not
with
sorry that
transition.
he,
Right.
I'm not saying sorry to that. I'm just
Yeah.
sorry with the
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
identify
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah. Right. But do we have to have that feeling though? Can't we shift our feelings to say, hey, I had time with this person. Any time that I had, I was never promised one single second. So
Well, yeah,
the
you
fact that I
can.
got those is bonus, right? So let me
That's
celebrate
true.
that I did know them. And let me change the perspective. Also, let me not tie them with my grief and my sadness and hold them back with it, because that's saying I want you back here. I'm holding you back, right? It's a tie. Whereas if I just remember you with appreciation and joy and love and goodness, man, now you're free to go wherever you are, and you can be happy looking back down here and say, wow, man, thank you, sir, for loving me and appreciating me and celebrating. What a great way to be remembered, right? I don't want to be remembered with grief. I don't want anything to be associated with grief if I'm going on, right? So please, if that's me, no, I want only positive thoughts from you. I want you to be thrilled that you knew me and that I'm living there in your memory as this positive memory. Yeah, super positive memory, hopefully. Yeah, makes sense, sure?
It
If we think
does.
of grief as habit and as should, it changes everything, yes? What if we grew up in a culture where when somebody transitions, we change our relationship, we bring them into our hearts. Oh, man, I was so thrilled to have known this person, to have loved them, that they were in my life. And we just have this fantastic positivity, and we transition the relationship from a relationship where I know you physically to a relationship where you live in my heart. It's just a different relationship.
Right.
No, we don't have to feel that way. But yes, I mean, I appreciate your sentiment. It's caring, right? But can we care differently? Do we have to care that in that particular way? Best use of energy?
But what if it is best use of energy for someone to feel just a few moments of sadness, because that is a human condition?
Does it have to be?
Neither does joy.
Precisely, it's a choice. my point. Just because something is habitually so and we believe it is human doesn't mean it has to be so. It's a choice. We can change. Some of these changes are deeply difficult because it's such a deep, deep, deep conditioning. But I think if I truly want to be free, I need to learn how to overcome such deep conditioning so I can truly choose. The profound thing, the profound thing. I know it seems like it's being inhuman, but when we really, really think it through all the way, say, man, I don't have to. I really don't have to. I know it's
So
difficult, so I'm not saying it's easy.
no,
I'm not saying it's
but
easy. Yeah,
I'm not going to argue that point.
yeah,
You know, I mean,
yeah,
you've got, you
yeah, yeah,
have your thoughts on that, but I
yeah.
also have to look at it too from also, I guess, a scientific, practical point of view, because I've seen animals grieve.
Yeah, yeah.
Dogs do. Elephants.
Yeah.
They
But
will.
what are they grieving? Right. Let's
The
think it
loss
through.
of their baby or the loss of one of their tribe.
Loss.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in that thinking, though, right, it's acquisition, loss. This is how your life goes. Something that's of value to me, now I don't have that value anymore. But there's no abstract understanding that I can have that value in my life via appropriate memory.
Well, that's true. I mean, like I said, I get that part.
Right.
But,
I mean, and the grief is because I've lost something. It's not on behalf of the person who's transitioned or the thing. Yeah.
well, maybe if
It's
somebody.
me personally.
Okay.
It's different, right? When you think of it that way.
Well, yeah,
Very
you
different.
can think of it in a bunch of different ways.
Right.
But what I'm also saying is, you know, I mean, there's just some things that I'm not ever going to be able to change. I'm always going to have to care. I do. I just
Right,
do.
but you can.
How I am.
Right. So now I'm out there floating around in the energy realm, right? And this grief comes from you, and it's a tie
Caring
to me.
doesn't have to be grief, and neither does saying I'm sorry.
I understand this. I understand. I'm just saying, though, that when in the context of grief specifically, yes, because grief usually is expressed as a form of caring. And that's why I was relating the two. I'm just saying sometimes that caring can be do the reverse, because you may be holding me, tying me with the grief and the caring. If you really cared for me, be happy for my freedom, be celebrating me, be appreciating me. That's the way to care, at least for me.
Right.
Just saying we can care, but there's, in other words, I'm saying grief and sadness does not necessarily equate with caring when it comes to death and transition. There are other ways we can care. I'm not saying don't care. I'm saying care differently. Or at least that you can choose. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying you can choose. Yes, of course you can choose to care in that way.
I see your point.
It's a choice.
I do understand and see your point. I really, really do. But I also, like I said, I mean, right now I'm thinking of what about the babies who are lost before term? You know, I mean, you don't get a chance to know that child.
Yeah, but what about if I'm the baby and I come into this reality and I say, oh, sorry, no, I didn't realize what this is all about. I made a mistake. I want out.
Yeah. Well, I guess it can go 50-50. I'm just going to leave it there.
We don't know. That all I'm saying is I don't know. And I don't want to be in that situation where I'm insisting.
And I respect that.
Yeah. So I try and choose. I try and choose different choices, ones which make better usage of my energy, because it's like we're venturing into the unknown. Like we said earlier, if I assume it's going to be negative, well, that's all I'm going to see through confirmation bias, right?
What do you do when you have a negative feeling? What do you do with it?
I think it through. I look at the entire context and I practice mood management and mood shifting.
Right.
I choose different. And
it still happens though.
Right. No, I realize it happens, but we can choose in that moment of being aware. Its value is to make us be aware that it's there, and when it's aware, I can choose it. Like the getting stressed with the phone. Right. This was a habitual pattern, but then you became aware and said, "Well, I can change it." So the same thing. Now, after a while of doing this, the habit of reacting to your phone will, I would assume, change over time, right? And then you'll stop having that feeling because you've practiced choosing differently.
Right.
That's very profound. That's very profound.
And like I said, I do understand the concept of practicing that, choosing differently, of shifting that. I do. I really do. But what I'm also trying to say is that we don't have control over whether or not we feel that moment of sadness or that, that twinge of, oh gosh,
we do.
We all have those cringeworthy moments. We all have those moments
we do.
where
And
we
we
just
don't
feel
all
like,
have them.
oh gosh. We still have a choice to change that. But what I'm saying is we can't just, as soon as it happens, I feel anyways that it's almost humanly impossible.
No, I realize that, but right. So I'm not saying that this is something that can happen instantaneously. I'm simply saying we can choose to react differently. At first, it's going to be a reaction because we have the default feelings that come up, right? And so we have to change the defaults. And by practicing changing the defaults, after a while, we establish new defaults. The problem is that some of this we assume that it's natural to feel irritated at our phones when they don't work.
Well,
It's not. It's a learned behavior. And we can change that learned behavior. Whether it's natural or instinctive or not, even if it isn't, I'm saying I feel it's learned. But doesn't matter. Let's assume it's natural.
Oh, no.
Just
for
because
me,
it's...
for me, that assumption of being natural, no, that would just be based on, that's a fast forward of peeling it back to, well, it comes out because of impatience.
Exactly. Now, a lot of people regard being irritated as natural behavior, and they have no interest in changing. Well, but that's natural. That you're supposed to feel that, right? Exactly. So we can change these behaviors that seem natural, seem the whole range of them. The whole range of them. It takes effort. It takes energy. It takes discipline. It takes perseverance. It takes persistence. It takes thoroughness, and it takes patience. Right? It takes all of those P's that apply to Shar to change behaviors which seem natural. They may even be natural. Maybe comes from our DNA. It doesn't mean I can't change it. I can. I'm not saying we aren't going to feel that. I'm simply saying that we can change how we feel. Even though it started off as a natural thing, doesn't mean it has to end up as that way. We can shift out of it. We can. It's very powerful. In other words, some things we do regard as impossible. Like, how can you not feel annoyed at your phone when it just breaks down in the middle of a Zoom that you really want to be in? A lot of people will say that. Come on, that's just natural. You're no different.
Well, and okay, but I'm also looking at other feelings too. Yes, I do understand that we can change that. One of the purposes. It is. It truly is. But I just also feel that we number one, we need to be careful about the approach, and secondly, because by and large, that's like telling everybody I'm going to wave a magic wand and now you're all going to think differently.
Right, but that was, that to me was absolutely not an implication. I'm simply saying that we can, as in possibility, shift how we respond. Well, for instance, in the case with the phone now, we already established that. But we can apply that same abstract logic of reactivity, emotional reactivity, not response. Response is choice, reactivity is non-choice. How we can change that reactivity in other ways, particularly when it comes to grief and sadness. We can use the same logic in the abstract. Yes, it happens. And I'm not saying we can just change it instantly. No, it's going to take work to do so because it's a very deep thing that happens. But it can be done. The impossible is possible. And I know somebody who's a living example of the impossible becoming possible.
Oh, I know. I know. And it is true. It is true. No argument on that. I'm saying that I have been, it took forever to even begin to use my feelings, let alone recognize them, let alone identify them.
Exactly. I realize this is a difficult thing, and I'm not sure why you got this idea that I'm assuming, or that I was sort of saying it's easy and simple. No, it can happen instantaneously. No, it takes effort and energy. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Very big deal. But it comes slowly. Look how long your phone has been giving you issues. Yes.
Almost a
and
year.
and we talk about mood management, awareness, understanding all the time. It didn't fall into place with the phone and patience and everything until today, right?
Yeah.
So this is it. Once we start to understand the concepts, at some point they sort of click and we become aware. You can't force awareness; it happens of its own accord. But I'm simply saying that in this case with grief and sadness, when we start to really think about it, we say, I still feel this way, but I do know there are other options. I'm not there yet. It's going to happen. I don't feel it yet, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to say it cannot happen, which is a different thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It hasn't happened for me yet,
Mm-hmm.
but it can. It could. And if I wanted to, it will at some point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Norma asks, what does the word argue mean? More than one can be correct. Yes, Norma. For me, I don't have that word in my lexicon. I threw it out.
I'm sorry, I
It's just
didn't hear
discussion.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
didn't hear what you
discussion.
said.
Yeah. Oh, Norma asked the question. She says, what does the word argue mean? And then I think she's giving her understanding. She says more than one can be correct. Yes, this is absolutely part of perspective shifting. So that's why, to me, argue is when you insisting that there is such a thing as correct. I don't even insist on that. To me, there's multiple ways to look at things. They're all correct. There's not just a one correctness. This is inherent in perspective shifting to multiple perspectives, to say they're all valid. All the perspectives are valid. That lets us understand the bigger picture. So the arguing doesn't come. I'll have a lively discussion, think things through to the end. And I enjoy when my thoughts and ideas are tested and challenged. It forces me to perspective shift, coming from another angle, to practice my communication, practice my expression, etc., etc. So there's much value to it. Much value to it. I mean, look how our discussion with Shar and I, we really got somewhere. We really got somewhere in a profound way, because there was an assumption that was causing a problem. This assumption of it being instantaneous. Yeah.
What was it? I put up earlier today something about assumptions. I'll have to find it and share it later. But it was all about assumptions, how they can.
Right. So, yeah. So there was the connecting ideas and beliefs about when I was saying this, that goes like, assume that I'm implying this, when no, I really mean it. This is something that, especially when it comes to grief and sadness, it takes a lot of work. And that's why I have that course on it. It's not just like I'm sharing this idea. There you go.
5 years worth for me. 5 years.
Exactly.
And I know some people who are still struggling through it.
Exactly. It's a lifetime thing. Exactly. But I meant specifically the course on transition, on it's a grief counseling, grief management course, right? Transition through change. It's a very particular thing, and it's not a simple thing to do. It's a very profound thing. But and the reason why I don't really put that out there very much, because it's very sensitive. It's very sensitive. It's very sensitive.
I think that's where I was coming from, that I wasn't able to fully express it, which is like I said a few minutes ago. Just now stepping into, having that courage to step into my feelings and expressing them and feeling them, really feeling them. I mean, that's not been a lifelong thing for me. My lifelong thing was to ignore them. Well, now I'm not.
Exactly.
So when one comes to me, like say sadness, then I tell myself that it is okay. I can feel it. I can experience it, and then I can move on from it.
Yes.
Which I do.
Yes. And exactly. So I was never saying don't feel sad. I was simply saying.
I heard. I heard that.
I heard what I said.
You didn't say it, but I heard it.
Right. Correct. So assumptions again. So what I was saying though is that yes, we feel sad, but is this the only option? No, there are other options, right? So yes, by all means feel it, but also in the feeling of it, say, is this appropriate? Can I feel differently? Can I change it? Do I have to feel this way? It said, in other words, start thinking it through to the end. And then you start to, wow, okay, there's a lot of stuff involved here. And that's what the whole transition through change program, that's what it's called, transition through change. It's transition through change, capital C change. that we end up transitioning because we're changing, and we are transitioning through a change in our lives, right? Instead of just having a change and be a harsh and disruptive thing. No, we're going to transition instead, which implies smooth fluidity. And to transition from feeling sadness as a default to feeling joy and appreciation is the better word, to feeling appreciation as the default, to feeling profound, positive, capital R remembrance, to feel capital R remembrance, right? If I'm remembering you in this form of remembrance, right? This is a magical thing. I'm only thinking of the wonder, the positivity, the appreciation, the joy, the fantasy. So I'm just saying, it's a transition that we want to go through from the default to something new. Like the transition that you experienced today, at least the start of this transition, of transitioning from being default irritated with your phone that doesn't work to saying, oh, I can just, be patient and let it happen, and I take it in stride, and it is what it is. And there you go.
You see, and also like the other point that I was trying to bring up there that I didn't get in was this irritation. By and large, a lot of times, if I'm irritated, annoyed, frustrated, etc., if I any of those things, there's a lot of things that come along with survival mode. Don't have to be in survival mode. It happens. It just happens.
Exactly.
So, but when we're aware of it, we can take the steps to get out of it.
Yes.
My phone conking out and freezing up on me like it does. My reaction to that was what made me or lack of reaction, I should say, was what brought me to that awareness of, oh, okay, well, survival mode is not impeccable. This is, and this isn't. So,
and then we get into all those self-judgments and self-criticisms, and yeah. But again, you know what? We have to accept that we're nincompoops as our starting point. The whole problem of judgment and self-judgment is an issue when we don't accept that nincompoopery is part of the human condition. And no matter how much I learn, I'm still going to have nincompoopery as part of the issue. And if I feel that nincompoopery is this horrible, terrible, bad thing I have to feel guilty about, well, then I can be judged. If I don't, then I say, hey, I'm being impeccable. I'm making every effort that I can. I'm still a nincompoop.
Right.
Yeah. So what? If you judge me to be a nincompoop, well, I agree.
Okay.
You judge me all you like. Why is it negative to me? Are you just agreeing with me? Yeah, duh. You see what I mean? So it's not a negative. It's only judgment is only when truth is seen as a negative.
Yeah.
In the way most people see judgment, right? But if you see truth as a positive, then how are you not welcoming judgment? For me, truth is a positive. So bring on the judgments, because I'm hoping that in your judgments, at least this is the idea of a judgment, is that you're going to be sharing a truth of some kind. And the implication is in the usual word judgment that this truth is some awful truth. But I'm happy with the awful truths. I have no problem with them. They're awesome truths to me. I've long since made peace with awful truths, right? So bring on the awful truths. I look forward to facing and dealing with them. I see this as a wonderful opportunity, as a gift, not as a negative. So I'm just saying, perspective shifting is really fun. It's really, really fun when we look at this. So, to me, that's why I'm saying, I love truth. I absolutely love truth. And there's no truth that can be like, no, Donna used to really stick. I don't know if you remember. So come on, there's no such thing as an awful truth. It cannot be. It's impossible. Anyway, she's looking at in the broad context. I'm using awful truth in a narrow context. Of course, when you love truth, you love all of it. There's no such thing as an awful truth. Cannot be, because you want truth. So yeah, so it's a bit of an oxymoron because it's contextually so. It's not in the bigger context.
That's true.
Yeah. So it's really wonderful. It's really wonderful. So I love this. I love this, how we get to stuff. And, sometimes there's some uncomfortable truths, awkward truths. And, this means that if I accept it, I'm going to have to get off my butt and do things. I don't want to do that. I got a lot of stuff to do. So that's just how it is sometimes. So we don't want to accept some truths because they have implications and consequences we don't particularly want to deal with right now. But that's the magic of that acceptance. It is what it is. If we have a more fluid understanding of our timeline, to say you know what, this got introduced into my timeline, and well, all it does is it stretches the timeline. Does it matter? Am I going to finish everything on my timeline in my lifetime? No, I'm not. So what? You know, if I've got 10 million things to do before I die or transition, right? And now suddenly I've got 10 million and 20. Big deal. What difference does it make? I'm going to be unfinished in my life anyway. It doesn't matter that I'm unfinished by 500,000 or 520,000. I'm still unfinished, you see. Right. So when we see things that say, oh, I don't have time for this now, that's only because you're expecting things to happen within a certain timeline. But when your timeline becomes fluid, which is what patience is, well, something gets inserted. Oh, I got something extra to do. So what? And the rest of the stuff just gets pushed back a little bit. Yeah, true. So this is very profound, very useful, because it makes us more fluid and more accepting. And it is what it is. I deal with whatever comes my way. That's all I can do.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't waste my time fighting it. Yes.
And I've got to definitely get going this time.
Yeah. Well, it is time. It is time too. It is time too. So on this deeper point, though, right, in terms of you dealing with your phone, isn't that an impossibility becoming possible? Another.
Yeah. I was going to say.
When I say impossibility, it's in inverted commas, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Again, there's no such thing really, so it's amazing. But so many of the things, yes, technically there might be, but I'm not talking about things that are like, you know, physically. No, I'm thinking about belief impossibilities, attitudinal impossibilities, emotional possibilities, conceptual, right? When we start, oh man, this is exciting. So, and you've had this, and to me, this what happened today is profoundly exciting.
Well, yeah, it is.
A small thing, but it's a huge implication.
Well, yeah, just because of the breakthrough on a connection. So that's important to me.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. I mean, you could think of it as, oh, wow, maybe the universe is giving me a bit of a power pause to kind of think things while I wait for the phone to reboot.
I think it did, but yeah.
Exactly. I just love your joy. Shar. I love your joy and your resilience. I love your resilience too.
Thank you.
You don't only have persistence, but you have resilience.
Oh,
that's the R's in Perry.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I will
persistent,
definitely own that.
Energy, right? Persistent, energetic, resilient responsibility of you.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to have to put all that down.
Perry. See, Perry. I just did Perry for you.
You did, but I couldn't remember it all.
Persistence, energy, responsibility, resilience, you. You as in you, and the you in you is capitalized as in the universe.
Responsibility, resilience, you. Okay.
Got
it. All right. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you spell Perry IE, then you could add, you could say, well, all right, then not you, but you could say impeccability and excellence.
No, we're going to go with Y.
I love it. I love you too.
Okay,
love you
too.
Love you too. All right. Bye-bye, sir. Bye-bye, everybody. I'm going to just sign off here. Too wonderful. See how when we persist, right? We go to the end. Look how much magic came out of it. Again, don't fall into that trap of thinking in the usual ways. Argument. No, there was no argument. We were discussing. We were continuing through to the end. And look how magical that was. Wasn't that just too profound, too magical? And moreness came from it. You know, most of the times when we think we're arguing, we're not really. All that happened is there was a bit of a breakdown in communication. That's all. That was all there was a little bit misunderstandings, assumptions, blah, blah, blah. Communication issues. Same thing with the phone. The phone breakdown, the greater context, communication issue. Lost connection to the internet, whatever, right? Communication issues. So when we understand that most of the time when we have disagreements, we're upset, it's not because of the thing itself. It's because of communication. Communication issues. I want to leave on this quote here. Communication is a haphazard business. Communication is a haphazard business or haphazard affair, right? It's a haphazard thing, right? Communication is haphazard. Haphazard and communication, remember that. We assume communication is always going to work. No, haphazard, right? So when we remember that and things don't go right, just pay attention. Is this something actually to be upset about? Am I really understanding, or is it a communication issue? It was pure communication with Shar and I, right? Pure communication. If we persist though, then we unravel the communication. We check, we recheck, we come back at each other. It's too fantastic. It's too fantastic. See, breaking out of the paradigm. Superiority paradigm says if you don't agree, then it's an argument. Well, because ego says you have to agree with me. I have to be right, because if I'm not, then I'm bad and wrong. Paradigm stuff. I wasn't interested in any of that. I was interested in communication. Yeah, that was actually sharing the communication. Yeah, very, very profound. Very, very profound. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Just love you all. Bye-bye, Elizabeth. Bye-bye, Norma. Whoever else was here. I don't know if I saw anybody else come. Michaela, she liked on it, so maybe she was just listening. So I love you too, Michaela. So yeah, this is too wonderful. All right, bye-bye, everybody. I don't want to go. I was enjoying the chat here, enjoying the conversation, enjoying the interaction. So I don't want to go. I'm reluctant to go. Again, I guess I don't have to, but I do have other things that I want to do. But see, when you're enjoying being, doesn't matter what you do. Anything is good. Doesn't matter. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Remember, communication. Pay attention to communication. That's when there's trouble, it's almost always communication. All right. Bye-bye.